My name is Dean Page, and I'm a certified life coach. I help my clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. I've also had the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people. People who have had unique careers, built up businesses, and triumphed through adversity. So one day it dawned on me, why not put the two together? Why not start a show where people can tell their stories of building success and rebuilding from adversity, with the intent purpose to encourage, inspire, and inform others who are working on their goals to fulfill their dreams. Now, if I only knew what to call it. Maybe I should make a list. Wait, that's it. The Dean's List. Kinda has a nice ring to it. So I hope you join my guests and I on this upcoming episode of The Dean's List. What do the names Kofi Kingston, Ivar of the Viking Raiders, Tommaso Ciampa, and Josh Briggs all have in common? Well, besides being elite sports entertainment superstars, they all give homage to the importance of mastering the fundamentals early in their training, and more specifically, that of their trainer, Mike Coach Hollow. Initially trained by WWE Hall of Famer Walter Killer Kolaski, Mike discovered that he had the ability to teach and to bring out the best in others, and that's what he started to do at Kolaski School, and he continues to do so even today. If you're a pro wrestling fan or someone who's thinking of a career in pro wrestling, Coach Mike Hollow is someone you should definitely have a conversation with. If you're not a fan of pro wrestling per se, but you're looking for tips and ideas on how to stand out from your competition, whether it be in business, arts, or science, if you're wondering how to be more confident or how to excel in your chosen field, then Mike's lessons and insights are for you as well. After all, several times in the podcast, he says he's training his students to be professional wrestlers both inside and outside the ring. I hope you join us today for this very insightful conversation. And oh yeah, there's some really cool Killer Kowalski stories in there too. Hello, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Dean. How's everything in your world today?
It's busy, as I'm sure yours is. I appreciate you spending the time to do this. Um, so obviously, you've got quite a history, so we want to be able to go through all that. But I wanted to ask you in particular about you have a group called Hollow Stable, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, the interesting thing about Hollow Stable, for many years I was doing, training. And, at certain times I'd have 15, 20 people in a group. And sometimes that could be difficult. And for a guy like me that really likes to get into the weeds of the nuances of with what we're trying to teach on a particular night, sometimes I felt that it just I wasn't accomplishing that the way that I should be. So I had actually taken a little hiatus from teaching professional wrestling, and through my old business partner, decided to get back in again. And it just with where Hollow Stables was just a small group of students, anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6, and it just kind of evolved and allowed me to kind of really pay that close special attention to students and with what they were looking for and with what I was able to pay attention to and really kind of dial in and put he or she in the right direction of, correcting, some of the nuances that needed to be addressed, both in and out of the ring.
So compared to like I don't want to say, I don't know if I want to say normal wrestling school, but say like somebody who just starts out, is the Hollow Studios more if they're ready to go to the next levels? Is that a good way for me to put it, or am I understanding it correct?
Basically, I think it's for an individual, both he or she, if they were at a school and They wanted to visit Hollow Stables with where they needed like a golf pro, where they needed some one-on-one attention to be able to kind of dissect, some of the small things that need to be looked at or that may be being overlooked, or just being able to spend quality time from an explanation standpoint and breaking things down in a manner where it's more so individualized, with where you don't have to, there's 15, 20 people in a class and it's next guy in, next guy out. And it just allowed me to really kind of get a better sense of either, and from a learning standpoint as well, to kind of help a student, turn that page from a development standpoint to point them in the right direction. I mean, let's face it, there's just so much to know from the world of professional wrestling, both in and out of the ring. And, it takes time and work.
That's a good way to put it. It sounds like the best of both worlds then. I mean, at one point you're getting the group dynamic and being able to learn all together. And then it sounds like you can, with Hollow Stable, get more specific on that.
Yeah, I think that's, you hit the nail on the head. There's, you look at pro athletes today, and I'll use Tom Brady as an example, as great as he was. He had a quarterback coach, or Tiger Woods, and they're looking at mechanics, just different things. And I think for me, it just, again, allowed me to look at those smaller pieces of the puzzle, because let's face it, that's, what creates levels of separation from, an indie guy to a pro, or for both he or she, with where they're just, doing those things fundamentally well, with where they're standing out for the right reasons, opposed to, having those fundamental glares with where, there's something wrong there mechanically or mindset, or being able to put things in the right piece of the puzzle at the right time.
It's interesting. You know, it's funny, you mentioned fundamentals a lot, but you also, which I want to get back into, especially the life coach in me kind of jumps in on the part about the both inside the ring and outside the ring, because I know a lot of people probably just think, just as long as I can do all the moves and I'm good.
Yeah.
Probably you're probably good. Yeah. 20 minutes or 30 minutes out of life versus the other hour. So that'd be good. So two separate things. And now you're also, right, I know you got quite a fascinating history, but like currently right now you're teaching at a school besides Hollow Stable. Like that's a separate thing. But what school are you teaching at now?
I'm teaching and working with, first I'm at the Elite Pro Wrestling Academy, which is in Concord, New Hampshire. The facility itself is unbelievable, 6,000 square feet, couple rings, a full gym, you name it, we have it. So that's been exciting. I've been up there for about a year and a half, and I think things are going well for us and producing some good talent.
Mm-hmm. It is. I admit, I knew the answer to that one. I got to, I came down there and we took some pictures and that stuff, and you graciously invited me to stay and watch some, and I loved it. Again, I have, had a martial arts background where I used to train. Different deal. Right. We weren't getting body slammed, but still, yeah, could see it from different ends, and I was impressed on something. While you had, with the group I saw, you had them doing warm-ups and doing some very basic drills warming up. And yet it seemed like you were critiquing every single one of even though they were the basic.
Yeah. For me, and I think probably with what separates me from a lot of trainers, is it's the little things that help us, helps us get to the next level. So again, it's like one of those things with where I don't want to put the roof on the house first. I really want to pour a solid foundation for, all of our students. And I say that both, inside the ring and outside the ring, and, because we are in a business. And I've often said I've wanted all of them to get noticed for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. And a lot of times things that can be overlooked, and that can be a decision with where someone's not going to get an opportunity. So I know I tend to harp on that stuff a lot, but again, with what's been shared with me over the years, it's those things that make the difference of with where it creates quality. And we're in a business where, the independents, if you think about it, has forced WWE to go in a different direction from a business standpoint of looking for talent. And I think it's important for all of us that when we have aspiring students, that want to get to the next level, let's make it with where they can't say no. And that's kind of my approach to the students that I have now is that when they have an opportunity to view, look at, scout, it's that there's something about that talent with where there's something there, and they've been taught right, and they've been able to grasp with what we've been trying to put across to ultimately put them in a better position um, on both sides, inside and outside the ring.
So let's just say, just if somebody's watching now and they're thinking, I really want to be a pro wrestler. So here's, I do, if it was me and if I was maybe a foot taller and about a few decades younger, but and about 100 pounds, you got the idea. So what's the best thing for, like, if somebody wants to do it? Should I figure out, I got to come up with a character. I have to look like Hulk Hogan. I have to, be as athletic as such and such. I have to do this. I have to have it all together. And I come and I show you, or what's the best way to come in from day one and be ready to be successful long term?
I think the biggest thing is one, you've got to be honest with yourself and realistic with what you want to do. Two is to come in and just watch and see with what it's like and with what we're doing, and with what you're going to have to endure to survive a practice session in a good way, and finally at some point, if things are going well, to have an opportunity to have a match. So again, it's just starting from square one and just and being coachable. I think that's the other part, right? It's just with what you see on TV, all those guys and girls that you see on TV started in a place like an Elite or Kowalski's or CTC. And, what are you willing to sacrifice to put in to get to that next level? Because it's something with where I use the analogy, when I went to Killer Kowalski's, I had to climb those set of stairs, and I wasn't going to become a wrestling coach overnight. It was trials and tribulations of, failure and success, and how bad do you want it, and how often are you willing to hear no and continue to with where you want to come back for more, because it's you can't be stopped.
As a kid, seeing seeing videos of Killer Kowalski and the different matches and stuff, I remember, or actually I might not have been a kid, but I was afraid of him on TV.
Well,
and there was a living room. I mean,
yeah, for me, it was interesting. I remember the first time 170 Pleasant Street over in Malden, Mass. And I climbed those stairs to his facility for the first time. And I was scared, intimidated. Here it is, and I opened the door and here's this ominous figure, Walter Killer Kowalski. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. And he was old school, and he had a way about him, and it was rough. It was, he was old school, and either you survived, and if you didn't, he was on to the next person. But and the funny thing, or the interesting thing is once you got past that exterior, he used to, and you'll laugh when I say this to you, he wanted to, the biggest heel in the wrestling business, he wanted to be known as an angel. Go figure. That's the truth. But he was very kind.
Actually, that makes sense. Huh?
Yeah, he was very kind. I mean, he was a huge villain for 20 plus years. But if you got to meet him or know him like I did, he was a completely and just a marvelous person.
But that almost sounds like I can see both parts together, because one of it is he's going to protect the business, especially in the kayfabe world, and probably even now you don't want people coming in who aren't going to be serious, and more to the point, people who may injure other people.
Right. And there's a level.
So then once you knows. It sounds like once he knew you were legit and had the stuff, then he would work with you.
Yeah, there was a level of respect. I mean, let's face it. Whether it was Walter or Scott or I mean, there's a lot of people that come through the door and say they want to do this and want to do that, and it's like, okay, I look over and say, "Geez, where's so and so? I haven't seen him in 4 weeks. Their star has faded."
You have the dream, desire, talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best gyms, personal trainers, and workout programs. What about overcoming the challenges, setbacks, or injuries that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help you with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.
Hey everyone, it's Ivar of the Viking Raiders, WWE Superstar, and I wanted to talk today about my former trainer, Mike Hollow. I'm very fortunate. I've been in the business for 22 plus years, and the amount of time I was able to spend with Mike and learn the fundamentals from him, making them all become second nature. There's no one better in the industry at teaching those basics and fundamentals and footwork and timing than Mike Hollow. And I think that's what you hear most in most testimonials about Mike are all those little things that he's so good at. But what's not mentioned a lot is how he prepares you not only for the mental aspect of wrestling, but for life in general. Mike has been able to teach so much to so many about how to navigate the world, not just the world of professional wrestling, but the world in general, and all the things that life throws at you, and how to carry yourself as a human being and as a professional. And he's given me life skills that work outside of professional wrestling, but also very much deep in the world of professional wrestling. I can definitely say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if I didn't get the mental training that Mike gave me, along with the physical, but the mental, I wouldn't have been able to handle these 22 plus years in the wrestling industry. There's so much that he brings to the table, and in my opinion, no one better.
Yeah, I gotta admit I was impressed. And we'll put in the video, your commercial in here too. But the elite commercial that you did that starts off with the multiple body slams, and the multiple bumps and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was great because, well, that's real. This is what it is. It's not a, oh yeah, you can be the next AJ Styles as long as you have good hair.
Right.
Come on in and it'll, everything will be fine. And that's not a shot at AJ. I love him. But,
no, the reality is it's a tremendous amount of work, physically and mentally. And, and I often say this, and I don't say it in a disparaging way. It's not for everybody. And it's hard because there's just so much to know and being able to put together. And, and if you're not committed, it's just, unfortunately, it's not going to work because it's like, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's difficult.
Oh, you're being real.
Yeah. Being honest. And there's a lot of work that goes into with what we do. And the average person, and what sticks out with me is that once they get in there and they realize that being able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and have it flow eloquently, and being able to tell a story without verbally communicating, and understanding all the dynamic and nuances, it's like I never realized that it was this hard.
I noticed even that little bit of the training that I got to watch, besides the fact that you were critiquing details, even while they're just doing warm-ups, if you will, there seemed, even in the little bit that I saw, a very concentrated effort on safety. I mean, you're taking the bumps, but you're taking the bumps right.
Yeah.
So I guess as a parent who had a son who, for a while, and we'll get into that later, actually went to WFA for training initially, which is kind of a cool story. But what would you say to parents as far as going, boy, my kid, he wants to be a wrestler and whatever. I'm concerned, you know,
Um,
and again, addressing their concerns.
well, I think the important piece there is that I would encourage parents if they had children that wanted, not, I don't want to say children, but young adults, 17, 18, um, is to come watch. Because I take it very seriously with where, I'm responsible for making sure that they come in and they leave in the same fashion as they came in, and we're trusting each other to take care of our bodies. And if someone's picking me up, I want to make sure that they're putting me down properly. And so again, it's just focusing on those little things that we're doing those things right, because things can happen ever so quickly. And I'm knocking on wood confidently is that we've got a hell of a track record with where safety has always been paramount. And again, it's a huge responsibility, and it's something that I think that we do well, and our students are in a good place for that type of mindset, because they're going to be looked after. And I think that's part of running a professional school, is that we actually truly care with what happens to you both in and out of the ring when you're under our watch.
Wow, that's really interesting. Because if you really think about it, you're right. I am depending, or one person is really depending on the other one,
Yeah.
to make sure that, it's not just I just got myself. It's not a football player who just has to make sure the guy's blocking is all right. You're actually like coordinating and working with another partner. So I could see that. You got that balance of having to, you want people who are aggressive and want to learn, but also, hey guys, it's a group.
Yeah. It's if someone's giving you their body, it's your professional responsibility is to make sure that you take care of them, and then have that aura about it with where, hey, there's realism behind this. But also on the more importantly is that I'm gonna make damn well sure that I'm gonna put you in a good place, and I'm gonna take care of you.
What is the camaraderie like? I mean, especially I would think like with the indies, like with that is it a one big family? Is it, you know, or rather than me guessing, why don't you tell me, as far as that, or, you know what I mean? Or the community, maybe that's a better way to put it.
I definitely think that there's a brotherhood and sisterhood. I mean, let's face it, with what we do is unique.
Mhm.
It's There's a bond. I mean, um, not everybody can do with what we do, and so I think there is that professional camaraderie. As competitive as our businesses is, it's still a business, but there's still a place with where I'm your brother's keeper and looking after you and making sure that you know we're all in a good spot. So there's something to be said to that. I mean, if you look at um, the old timers, I mean, they're that brotherhood, Cauliflower Alley Club, and um, it's I mean it is what it is.
Which again is good. That sounds like in the beginning. I know when we were talking like, hey, what's it take to be, you know, or to come in and be successful? It sounded like obviously work ethic, but it sounds like characters in there too.
Yeah. Um, our characters, if you think about it, depending on with what you're trying to put out there, is who we are. It's us turned up a little bit. I might be at a 5, and then when it's time for me to hit that switch, it goes to a 10. Whether I'm a baby face or a heel, um, it's and people being able to see that, and not only see it but feel it, and being able
Mhm.
to make that emotional connection with where they're behind you, and they want to come back and see you again, and there's something unique about you that they find to be fascinating with where they relate. um, so yeah, and And I don't talk a lot about character stuff in the beginning because it's more so pouring that foundation, and then maybe when we're 5, 6, 7 months in, it's that starts to take a life of its own with where we start asking those questions. What and I was asking them the other night. Well, who are you? I mean, do you have identity with who you are as a person, and what do people see when you walk into a room? Is there something about you? Do you have that it factor? Do people pay attention to you? Is there a way that you carry yourself that with where, geez, that person's interesting with where they want to watch you? So um, all of that stuff comes into play, and then your self confidence. Do you have that aura about you with where there's something as you come out of that curtain and are on that ramp and walking your way to the ring, whether you're a baby face or a heel, whether they want to get behind you or they can't stand you because you're just smug.
So that's got to be part of one of those things that translates
Yeah.
into real life. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go on an interview with like you're acting like Randy the Macho Man per se,
No.
but at least that idea of the presenting who you are.
Yeah. Funny story. We were doing a promo class the other day up at Elite, and I had said to my students, I says, "Well, there's 3 of me," and they look at me. What do you mean? There's 3 of you? Well, there's me, the wrestling coach. There's me in my professional job, and there's me, the dad. And sometimes my kids say to me, "Dad, we're not one of the students," and so it's those different characters and interjecting them at certain times.
I can relate to that, having a martial arts studio at one point and having my kids there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was watching a clip, and it was WrestleMania in Boston.
Oh, yeah. Good old WrestleMania.
So I'm watching this, and I've seen that before, of course, but I'm going in. There's somebody who looks really familiar.
Yeah. Go figure, huh? Yeah. I seen that guy.
I got to hear that. I got to hear this story from you.
So WrestleMania was in Boston and at the Fleet Center, and the phone rang the night before. And I happened to become friends with a gentleman by the name of Pat Patterson, who worked for WWF, WWE for many years. And so he rang and said, I need 5 referees and I need an office person for a piece in WrestleMania tomorrow. Can you find me these people? And let's keep it under wraps. And at 2:00, show up at the Fleet Center. We'll meet you. We'll take you upstairs and we'll run through the whole piece with what we're going to do. And so next thing you know, we're in WrestleMania. I'm in the ring with Rock and Ken Shamrock with 5 of my students from Kolaski's, and we're all getting tossed around, and so that was pretty cool. And the funny story there was, 25 years later, I'm up at Elite, and there's a gentleman up there that does mocap, and Ken Shamrock happened to come in to do the mocap motion picture stuff, and Ken didn't know I was coming, and I got word that he was going to be there, so I had shown up, and I walk in, and he's there, and he kind of looks at me, and I kind of look at him, and I said, "Do you remember?" And he says, "You age well." He says, "I know who you are." I says, "Yeah, you're the one that gave me that big suplex in WrestleMania." So I guess, you never know with where you're going to come across paths with people again in the business. So it was good. It was a funny story. Good story.
That is great. Especially Ken Shamrock. Like, hello.
Yeah. I mean, think about 25 years later, I haven't seen him. And next thing you know, he and I are in the ring taking pitches. And that's the funny part about our business. It's full circle. And that's why it's so important to take care of your name and your reputation, because you never know who you're going to, come across again. And people vouching for you and say, he's a good guy or not a good guy. And so it was a good moment, nice moment.
Which is kind of the brotherhood.
Yeah. Yep.
And sisterhood.
Yeah, and he like you, he asked me the story how this all came about, and talking to him, and he thought that was interesting. So you just never know.
So I saw another clip too, if you don't mind me asking about this. Let's checking out. Steve Blackman.
Oh yeah, I got my fanny whipped.
He didn't look. Yeah, he.
I'm still recovering. Still not right.
He's going. Thanks, Dean, for bringing that
Well,
up.
I've had worse. I mean, JBL was worse than Blackman, but it was one of those things with where I was, trying to get a job and going to TV and doing job max, extra work and trying to get noticed and trying to get over the hump and just going there and doing as I was told and trying to make them look like $1,000,000. They all took very good care of me, and again, and I think the funny part or the interesting thing for me was I remember the first time I was in the Fleet Center wrestling there, going back to when I was a little kid, 5 years old, and you're in the middle of the Fleet Center and you're looking up to get the Jumbotron there, and you get 18,000 people, and you say to yourself, "How the hell did I get here?" Who'd ever would have thought? So it's like anything. You put your mind to something. If you got love for something, it's just you don't know with where it's going to take you. And here it is, 30 years later, I'm still going strong, but in different aspects.
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best gyms, personal trainers, and workout programs. What about overcoming the challenges or getting your head in the game? I can help with that. Visit teampagelifecoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.
Hey guys, this is NXT superstar Josh Briggs, and I just want to take a moment and talk about my former coach, my first coach, Mike Hollow. I realized very quickly on in my training process with Mike that he has an attention to detail that's probably second to none in this business. And the way that he coaches footwork and basics and the fundamentals, it's something I don't think anyone else can replicate. I think he is the best in the entire industry at coaching the basics, the fundamentals, and the footwork. I remember there's this analogy that he had that he always told me, and it still sits in my head to this day. When you're building a career, you want to have a solid foundation, and the foundation of a solid career is basics and footwork and fundamentals. So once you have that foundation, then you can start building the house on top of that foundation. You want to build that house as high as you can. And I think with Mike Hollow's foundation, his basics, his footwork, his fundamentals, you have an opportunity to build a career as big as you want. So if you're with Mike, you're in good hands. Listen to him, trust him, and you're under the best learning tree and the best family tree that this professional wrestling world has today.
Talked a lot about opportunities and being ready. It sounds like, or at least if I hear it right, obviously when you get an opportunity, you want to seize it. But it sounds like you take steps back to be as prepared as possible. So then when the opportunity is there, you're ready and ready to go. Is that accurate?
I think it's spot on. And I share that statement often because, look, at opportunities might be few and far between. And someone that might be the right set of eyes that's going to make a decision. And if you're not prepared, that's a reflection of that you haven't done your due diligence or put enough time in to get you through that door. So when those opportunities are present with where someone's going to change your life, and you can't go back and say, "Geez, I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that." And that's why, for me, the big focus is little things, because that's what those guys are really looking for. They're looking for little things. They're not looking for a flash or this or that. Can you do those things, those nuts and bolts that are going to allow them to build onto with what you have from a foundation, with where at some point in their career they can put the roof on and all the other pretty pieces. But if that's not solid, it's those opportunities now become fewer and fewer in between.
As in life.
Yeah. It's your work ethic, it's your reputation, it's your credibility, it's your word, your ability to be coached and constructive criticism and take direction and do as you're told and listen. Um, so all of that's full 360. It's do you do all those things well? And if not, there's got to be some self-assessment with where, okay, what's hindering me to being able to turn the page to get with where I want to be. There's people that want to help me, but how am I helping myself with that feedback or that direction or that insight that's going to allow me to prosper?
Which is key.
Yeah.
Again, there's a difference between confidence and I'd say confidence and cockiness.
Yeah. Yep.
Because hey, listen, I got the ability. But to be able to take that and like, you know what, this is not so good. Here's how you want to get better, improve here, and go, okay, how do I fix this? Versus, well, but I'm really good over here. I used to run that in the martial arts sometimes.
I've had, a tremendous amount of very talented, athletic guys and girls, but they didn't have that other half. And then I've come across people that had half of what he or she had, and they were just relentless, and they found their way, and opportunities were vast, were coming more often than not because of just their mental approach, their ability, their just desire not to take no for an answer, with where others thought because they were gifted that it was going to be the other way, and that wasn't always the case.
It's interesting when I hear you say that. I've noticed, and obviously there is certainly a physicality. There's no doubt about that. But I notice and when I say character, I mean character as in heart and work ethic, just not the character.
Right.
I noticed you didn't say, well, you got to be 6'5", you got to be 380, you got to be able to do this, you got to be really good on mic, whatever. It sounds like you got to be, well, you did say you got to be realistic about yourself.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're saying you got to come in and willing to learn and take the bumps, learn how to do them right, and show heart and listen, and we trust us to get you there.
Right. I'm looking for those intangibles because there's so many that you need to have. And again, it's being realistic, and it's not for all, but if you demonstrate those things and with where we see that, it just allows things to go in a much better direction with where some of those pieces might be missing. And, those conversations have to happen with where, being honest with talent and saying, there's just some of these things just aren't clicking the way that they're supposed to. Maybe there's something else that we should be looking at with where you could do in this business besides wrestling, so forth and so on. I mean, we don't want to have those conversations. We want everyone to be able to aspire, but sometimes it's just not realistic. It's not in the cards.
But isn't that being a good coach?
Yeah.
And legit?
The one thing you can say about me is that I'm honest, and I don't in honest in a way with where I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's the same thing if in the business world, right? Some people are cut out to do certain things in the business world in their field of employment, and others aren't. And it's the same thing that applies for us in the world of professional wrestling. And and we love to be proved wrong too. I mean, show us that that you can get over that hump, and that's what even makes it even more exciting with where it's they become success stories.
Mm-hmm. Which you have those. Well, we have that list. You got some pretty good names talking about you. And what's neat is when you listen to the videos, they're saying a lot of the same stuff you're saying now. So anybody listening, this is not a Mike doesn't have a script that he's saying, this is how to get you in the door. So you write a check and then we're done. This is, and plus I've had dinner with him one time. I enjoyed it. I mean, we talked wrestling and the infamous Walter stories,
Right.
which are great. But what I noticed is I studied leadership and love leadership. that's a passion of yours. It comes across when you're not, in between ordering a salad and getting, and getting the main course, which is neat. How does leadership play in, I guess, as far as like for students coming in, but also overall?
Um, Leadership is something that's very important to me. Um, and I think for when you talk about, I think you were talking about some of the people that created messages or videos. Is that what you're? It,
Yes.
yeah. I'll let you in on a little secret, and you'll probably laugh at me when I tell you this. You know what I don't do? I don't listen to them, and I take them and I share them with Scott, and I've never heard of listened to with what someone has said, and and I don't know why, and
Oh, I could tell you why. Because you're not about you. You're about bringing out the best in people.
yeah,
That's my life coach. Life coach things kind of jumps in every now and then. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
You know.
and I tell people that, and they go, "What do you mean you don't listen to them?" And I haven't, and then. Scott has tried to, hey, Mike, listen to this, and I'll walk away from him because I don't want to hear it. I mean, I'm very, very appreciative, very appreciative.
No.
So, um, and for all of them, it's just, it was my responsibility. Responsibility ultimately is just to put all of them, and they trusted me to put in the best place possible, so they could succeed in their careers. And there was times where we had challenging times from a development or back and forth disagreement, so forth and so on.
Sure.
But it was always in the best interest of them. And I think Kofi says it best. It's the briefcase mentality, right? Coach always used to say, doing business inside the ring and outside the ring. Do you do those well? So, and can you survive in that environment? In the world of business, with where you have all of those intangibles together, with where you can continue to stay employed and work well with others. And I think ultimately it was my job is to instill upon those things that were instilled upon me way back when from Walter and others, that to give back, because listen, we all need direction, we all need help. Rock says it's best. I didn't get to WrestleMania by myself. People helped me get there, right? So I think that's the biggest piece, is always giving back and trying to point people in the right direction. So that stuff's important.
So elite pro wrestling. You have to say the full name, Dean. Conquer. So I'm a life coach, not sales. Take 432. Yes, this car is, what's the name of the car? No. Yeah. Anyways, you have a unique thing that you have, that, and then WFA. Do you mind if we talk about WFA a little bit?
No, we can. I love talking about both of them because, again, it's a brand, and we're trying to grow both. It's exciting. It's there's energy and there's opportunity for many. And I just, it's a breath of fresh air on the independents, both from a school standpoint and from a promotional standpoint. So let's have at it.
All right, great. So there's I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to see how you tie in the school with the with WFA. My son James wanted to be a wrestler. We were doing Taekwondo, we're doing that, and he wanted to be a wrestler. So he told me about this school by a guy named Steve Bradley was running it. Mm-hmm. So me being that, you talked about you're the coach, you're the business guy, and you're the dad. Well, that was the dad mode. Okay, who you going where? Let's go find this out. Went, met, and like, okay. So James did it, and so he trained for a while. Well, and again, I was. Steve said, hey, stay. Steve was no dummy. let's make sure the dad's okay.
Yeah.
So I got to stay and watch, and there were some people there who were setting up the ring, and James helped with that, and which was another thing when I realized, yeah, that's not a trampoline. And so as I'm waiting, this guy comes in, walks by me, and I don't know if you heard of him. His name's Scott Reed. So he was there, so I got to meet him. He was training there, and then and then the first WFA show, I took all my kids. We all went, and the very first WFA match I saw was with Scott Reed and Brandon the Real Deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was our first WFA. So, and I don't want to get into any of the controversy. I don't need to. You guys, I think what's going is good enough to say what's good enough. But that's what I remember WFA. I remember those guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
They were there when I was there. So enough already. So with that said, how does WFA tie into the school or the other way around?
It's, obviously it's two separate businesses, but I think one, you need one and the other. It's, if I was a student, I'd be saying, there's a carrot at the end of the road. And, here it is that, which we can train students to have that opportunity with where over a period of time, if things are going well, whether it's 6 months, 8 months to a year, is that they can work in their home promotion and right in their own backyard with where we have this, beautiful school and a beautiful building to run shows, so forth and so on. So I think it just, complements each other extremely well. And I think the students, it's to their advantage. And again, as Scott and I, as trainers or leaders, get to see firsthand of with what they're doing and the experience their first matches or many of matches, and to give that constructive feedback with where if they were out on their own, do they have 2 or 3 people that are actually looking after them like we do, to kind of keep them in a good place and down that right road of success. So it's really a healthy fit from a development standpoint and from a professional standpoint. So it's a great combination, in my opinion.
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best gyms, personal trainers, and workout programs. But what about overcoming the challenges, setbacks, or hindrances that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.
What's going on, y'all? You know who I am, and you know what I do. And if you don't, my name is Kofi, and I don't really even want to talk about myself right now. I want to talk about my wrestling coach, the guy who broke me into the business, the guy who gave me all the tools to succeed in this industry. I'm talking about Mike Hollow. He always emphasized how important the basics were. That's what separates him from everybody else. Anybody can go out there and do all the crazy moves and all the impressive stunts and feats and all that in the ring, but really what it comes down to is the basics. He taught me little things like minimizing your footsteps in the ring so that you're not pitter-pattering all over the place and you're stumbling and bumbling and fumbling all over the place when you're trying to execute a move in the ring, or even just how to conduct yourself, not just inside the ring, but outside the ring. He talked about bringing your briefcase to the table and conducting business in a professional way, even being able to interact with the people. All of these tools are things that I still use to this day. I mean, geez, 15 years later, but crazy to say that, but it's been that long. For me, I tell people how lucky I was. It was just luck of the draw that I just decided to go to a wrestling school that just so happened to have Mike Hollow there as a trainer. But for you, it doesn't have to be luck. You can actually choose to go to one of, if not the best trainers out there in Mike Hollow. If you want to succeed in this industry, I highly suggest going to hollowsstable.net and looking up Mike Hollow and allowing him to do what he does and give you all the tools that you need to succeed in this industry, man. Trust me when I tell you, you won't regret it by any means. He is amazing. He's an awesome teacher, an awesome trainer, and an awesome person. So look him up, get the tools that you need, get in that ring, and achieve some dreams like I did. All right? Peace, y'all. Baby!
Again, I went to the majority of the New Hampshire shows. A couple times I had some scheduling stuff, but and I thought it was great. Something I noticed initially is you brought in it's a lot of people from different areas, and then it seems more. Was that? Well, obviously it was on purpose because people didn't just walk in the door and say, "Hi, I'm here. Can I wrestle?"
Right.
But was there a strategic plan initially,
Yeah.
as far as on that end of it?
Yeah,
Or
there was. I think, for the promotional side of it, it was trying to figure out, who's out there from independent talent, who could potentially be a good fit for the organization from a long-term standpoint. Um, you know, who was good to work with, who was good to take who took direction well, who connected. So I would probably say we probably ran 10 or 12 shows, just shuffling people talent in and out on purpose to kind of get a sense of, okay, who wants to be with us, who do we want to keep around, and trying to figure out with what direction that we want to go in. And we'll continue to with where we're bringing different people in at different times. And it's kind of gotten to the point now with where the core people are starting to kind of, the Spencer Slades, the Brad Bailers, so forth and so on, with where we're, the WFA is finding its identity with what we're looking to do over a period of time. We've had our bumps, we've had our ups and downs, but again, it's, trying to figure out what works and with what doesn't work. So it's, sometimes good decisions, sometimes bad.
well, that sounds like a little bit like what you're doing with the school with the kids. It's not like, okay, we need somebody who's 6'5", who's this or this or this.
Right.
This is the blueprint in the story. Boom, who fits that?
Yep.
It sounds like you see what you have and then work with it. Which again, if it sounds like a really good opportunity if I want to make a go at it, but I don't fit the quote unquote typical mode, if you will.
Yeah, and if anything, this month it might be not a good fit, but next month it might be a great fit. And Vince was famous for changing his mind, and
Yeah.
we change our mind, and next month we might come back and say, what, let's go back and circle back to with what we originally were going to do. So the opportunities are vast for a lot of different guys and girls, and who we want to be committed to and who wants to be committed to us. Understanding with what we're trying to accomplish. And I think, the other part that makes us unique is that we just don't want to be another independent group. I mean, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but there's a ton of independent groups out running independent wrestling shows here throughout the Northeast New England area. And, one of the things that I've said to Scott, whether the same thing applies to the school, it has to be a professional environment, both to both sides, because that's what makes us different from everybody else. And I'm hell bent on with what, we have to be different. And I say that in a way with where in a good way, not in a negative way, but there's something about both groups with where people say to themselves, there's something about them that's different from everybody else.
Wow, that's powerful, especially the idea of you be a professional wrestler, not just a wrestler.
Well, it's the same thing I say to my students, and I say it often. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of independent wrestlers throughout the country, thousands. For me, and this is a part that I take very seriously, is that I want pros, right? I'm hell-bent with where we're going to create professional wrestlers both in and out of the ring, because let's face it, my name is stamped across their foreheads. And they're a reflection of me and with what, that's been instilled upon me. And I want them to be able to go into a locker room or into a ring with where part of my friends, but they have their shit together.
You probably don't want to walk into some of the locker rooms and not have your act together. Yeah. No.
Well, it gets back, right? I mean, it gets back to you, right?
Right.
And, and I don't want to hear that with where someone was either misbehaving, couldn't follow direction, was being difficult to work with. And, then I got to start asking questions, why and how come? It's not with what we've discussed over the last 2 or 3 years or last year. And
judging from your videos, you're not getting that response. You're getting a pretty good response, which is why you don't have to listen to it.
Right. I won't tolerate it.
I love that. Which is, but again, now, we were talking before with parents, or if you're wondering, well, I mean, that says a lot right there. I know I can send my kid and they're safe.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
the bumps are the bumps, but there's a way of doing it. I don't want to say that it doesn't hurt. There's a way to doing it safely,
yeah. Yep.
comparatively.
Yep.
And that's important, and still developing the trust. The I thought, and this is my opinion. If you don't get mad at Mike, you can get mad at me if you want. I think for me, WFA, and from what I've seen, has done a great tribute to Steve Bradley. I have seen nothing but, I get emotional because of the James. And I talked to him like maybe 3-4 times, so it's not like we're buds or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but just the respect factor that I see. Even this last one that where, right out the bat.
Yeah.
And just to me, see those, you talk about little things. I look at that and go, that's a tribute without saying it. And it's interesting because I think, Steve, your legacy is continuing on, and it kind of sounds like you guys are thinking, even if you may not consciously be thinking of that, you're doing the same thing, that, the contributions that you made and the impact are going to continue for years and probably generations.
And it's great that you say that, and I appreciate that. It's with what, I didn't know Steve well, not like Scott did. And I look at it from my perspective, Scott on that side, and for me with Elite is with what Walter gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So between the both of us, it's just with where, continuing to give back and carry on that legacy of that lineage of, listen, let's be honest. If, Walter didn't believe back in me in 1994, 1995, 96, I wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you. And, Scott, with what he's doing with the promotion WFA and with Caleb, Steve's promotion that he started is continuing to prosper and grow. And, I think it's a wonderful thing. And whoever would have thought after all these years with where it was kind of put on the shelf, and, Scott wanted to do his thing. And for, my selfish reasons, I wanted to go to Concord and do my things, as I think I might have shared with you, maybe not. So it's all good, and it's something that we should be proud of, and continue to find ways to make both of them grow with where we're resonating on the map, and people are talking about us in a way with where it's healthy and it's positive. And we'll always have our detractors, but as long as we keep our nose down and do with what we need to do, I think the rest of it takes care of itself, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I took, my, actually James's son, my grandson there, and he absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And so when WFA says, hey, we're family friendly, it is, and that doesn't mean it's not tough. And the characters and all that, but I didn't feel like any minute I had to put my hand over the kids' ears because
yeah, exactly.
And it was neat. And the thing is, I liked it, and I've gone to like the big shows. We just went in Boston a few months ago, and which was amazing. And we've gone to some of the other shows. Haven't been in the ring like you, but I also didn't get body slammed by Ken Shamrock. So I might be like, okay. But the thing is for me personally, and watching, because again, obviously I watch not just the ring, but the people and the reaction and how they get a response and that type of stuff. That might be the musician in me flaring up there, but their interaction with the kids are great.
Yeah.
I took a picture of, your champion mosh pit.
Yeah, good guy.
We're done the show. We're done the show, blah, blah, blah. And he went to high five a kid. No, nobody, probably but me and the kids are looking. And then he goes over and he reaches over and he hands him his belt to hold, And it wasn't with the cameras there, and it wasn't with the, hey, publicity shot. Yeah, okay, good. There you go, kid. And I've seen that with a lot. And To me, I just think that really makes a difference and should resonate as people go and go, wow, hey, wait, this is like an interaction thing. I know a little different now. I know one of the things is initially NASCAR used to say there's more interaction with their, perform or their athletes than other places. You're not going to go on the football field. And if you do, you're not going to be there long,
Right, exactly.
or that type of stuff. Obviously there's controls, but I thought it was really good. On a personal note, it was neat. I know sometimes getting Concord on, on a Friday night on a holiday can be a little challenging.
Yes.
So you guys had put on, for me, I'm going to be honest with you, it was probably one of my favorite matches, believe it or not, because you had 3 or 4 of your students come out.
Yeah.
And they did it, and you said right out, it's an exhibition and whatever. The thing for me is, I think 3 of them, maybe 4, were ones that when I got to watch you work with them, it was those 4.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it because, and watching it, to me, they did what they did, and you set them up to me, it seemed like you set them up to win with where they were at.
Right.
Versus, okay, well, now you got to go do a match, or now you got to do these flips. And the different things that I saw you working individually with them, I saw incorporated in that what they were good at. And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's always when we're working with students and then when they have opportunities to get in the ring, which is with what they're striving for, is really trying to set them up for success and not asking them to do things that are out of their realm of level of understanding or capabilities. So it's more so of a positive experience than a negative experience, but there's still learning takeaways, from those situations. And let's face it, we all of us, from Triple H to Rock, me, Scott, Walter, we all had starting points in our career. And more often than not, when we were starting out, we got it wrong, and we persevered and came back for more and more and more. And and it's next thing you know, you're doing your thing. But it just and that's the beauty of it. We were all infants at one point in time with where we were able
right.
we were with where we were able to grow. And I think for me, I look at it, it's always fascinating or seeing with where a student's at 6 months in or a year into their training, from their personalities to the level of confidence to the air that they have about them or how they carry themselves. And that's what this wonderful business does for us. It just really pulls out all of those little those intricate things that make us uniquely different, in a good way. To there's something about us that resonates with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people react to real. You have the dream, desire, and talent. Guitar player has the riff, drummer the groove, bass player the vibe. The band has it all. And then you try to do a project. I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com to see how life coaching can help you design a project plan that works with your group strengths. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.
Hi, this is Tommaso Ciampa, 2-time NXT champion. Just dropping a note about Coach Mike Hollow. He was my first ever wrestling trainer in the professional wrestling industry, and he is hands down the best when it comes to fundamentals and footwork and in-betweens and psychology. And man, Mike Hollow just knows his stuff. If you are thinking about getting your foot in the door, starting out your wrestling career, look no further. Go to Coach Mike Hollow. If you're looking to just elevate yourself as a performer, take the next step, get a little bit more serious about things from a conditioning standpoint, from an in-ring standpoint, anything, Coach Hollow is the guy to go to. He's now at Next Gen Wrestling Center. Check them out in New England. I can't say enough good things about Coach Hollow. I owe that man a whole lot for where I am today in the business and in life. He's a good dude. And I think that's the best thing I can say about him. He's just a good human being. So.
you know, it's interesting. I think I had told you this one of the times when I was watching and you were having them do the drills and stuff. Yeah, you were doing some type of takedown. One of the kids, I actually thought, and I can say kids because I got 6 decades on me here. So I actually thought he got hurt about 5, 6 times. And the reason I thought that was because he was selling that, whoa.
Yeah.
And then he's like, get up and he was fine. And it struck me that here's this guy, he's selling, he's not going to have to remember to do it or to make it realistic or, you know, I literally thought he was like, oh, dude, is he okay?
Mm.
And for me, I thought that was such a visual of Mike Hollow, the coach, that if you're going to do it at all, you're going to do it. You're going to do the whole package all together, right? We're going to work with you there so that then you don't have to remember that. I mean, I could be wrong, but that was my takeaway on that.
No, it's because it's that perfection piece, right? With where we only have one opportunity to get it right or make an impression with our audience.
Yeah.
And if we don't seize that in a way or a manner with where our actions don't resonate throughout over the ring into the crowd, people aren't going to pay attention. So as I try to instill upon my students, do not give them a reason not to pay attention to you. Now that doesn't mean not be in control or this or that, but what is it with where they cannot take their eyes off of you? Because look at, life is full of distractions, our phones, whatever it may be. So that goes back to those little things with where you believe that person was potentially hurt and they're not, because they were putting the pieces of the puzzle together that were able to captivate your attention in a way with where, geez, he got me.
Wow, that fits in with some of the business books and people, the people writing the books, not the books themselves talking, where they said, you know, be so good that they have to, you know, they have to hire your agency for this ad or, you know, be so good that this or that, or do, you know, all these little things. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I want promotions to hire our talent because they do not the big things, but the small things so exceptionally well. It's like, okay, there's something here that we can continue to build on. And that's with what's unique. That's what makes us different. That's what makes level of separation in a healthy way, in a good way, with where, again, I don't mean to repeat myself, both, you know, in and out of the ring. So important.
Yeah, but that's also a takeaway people can do. You know, if they can listen to this and go, okay, maybe I'm not going to be a pro wrestler per se, but I want to be this person or I want to be in this field. You can take the same principles and go, okay, well, are you going to do the little things right?
Yeah.
Are you going to do, you know, are you going to go the extra mile? Are you going to get your review, get constructive feedback and work it or defend it,
Right.
you know, but yet still have confidence and not get shattered.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
as far as on that, you know, and some people may just want to be busting you. So
yeah,
to have enough confidence to know when and what.
right.
And I'm kind of bouncing around, sorry, but for the, I had this outline over here and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to talk to you.
There you go.
When your experience in WWE, I got to ask, who was probably one of the best people to work with or one of your favorites?
You know, I had the opportunity to work with Double J probably a half a dozen times back when we were doing the dojo shows in the late 90s, early 2000. And that was phenomenal. Just, and I remember the first time I got to work with a star, and that was Tito Santana. And I was this young indie guy, you know, doing all this stupid stuff, and, you know, finally have an opportunity to work with him and put things in perspective in the right place and the right time, and listening to an audience, and working with a ring general that really knew his way around. And after it was all said and done, you know, that light went off my head and said, geez, that was totally different from what I've been doing. So those moments stick with me. And so that's, you know, and a bunch of others, but those two in particular.
I know when people do like concerts, you know, a lot of times people think I'll just do just songs, but you really, if you do a concert, you want to think of the beginning, the middle, or the end. There's a progression. It's not just this one song. Well, maybe for some people, but in theory, those who have lasted a long time, and it kind of sounds similar. I know you've talked about knowing when to put all the pieces together, you know. I remember seeing some interviews like of Charlotte where she was watching some of her matches and goes, you know, they reacted. I should have waited. I should have, instead of going right into my next move, I should have let that build.
Yes.
Is that part of the equation? Is that part of what you teach? And is that
Absolutely, right? I mean, God, take the word mileage and get the most out of it. I mean, it creates longevity in your career. It garners interest with your audience. It allows them to enjoy with what's going on in front of them. Take a blank canvas, paint a picture. When it's all said and done, after it's 8 or 10 minutes, and the audience was able to look at that canvas and say, "That's a beautiful picture," or "That was a beautiful match," and or it's like going to a 5-star restaurant. You know, enjoy every bite. Right?
Oh, there you go.
Let the people truly appreciate your work. And if you do some cool stuff, great, fantastic. But don't go just from point A to point B just for the sake of going there. Create that emotional vested interest with where they want to come back and see more. So again, it just goes back to understanding your audience and little things and getting the most out of the least. And it helps with the longevity of your career as well. With what we do takes a toll on your body. So if you can take 4 bumps in a match instead of 12, that goes a long way. You've only got so many bumps you can take during the course of your career with where the body says no more. So, think long and hard with where you put those special moments with where it resonates and it garners that emotion when the referee finally goes to count 3. And did you get the response? That's what I always paid attention to. I didn't care if I was winning or losing. When that referee finally counted 3, my ears were perked up, and I wanted to hear. I wanted to listen to with what they told me on the 3 count.
What are the reaction?
What was the reaction?
Because that's the feedback.
And that's all I'm working for, right?
Wow.
That's all I'm working for. Selfishly, I wanted to know whether I was going over or whether I was doing a job. But that's with what our business is: emotional reaction of vested interest. And I oftentimes with where I didn't get with what I wanted, I'd go back and say, geez, what did I miss there? What could I have taken out? What could I have added? Could I have lived in that moment, that much longer with where it resonated with the audience, with where they became that much more emotionally attached to when whether I was a baby face or a heel, they were either with me or against me, but they were with us.
Yeah, they were invested one way or the other.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Which again can translate it back when you talk about in the ring, out of the ring.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because this is a great. Oh, I got this great ad campaign. It's the best ever. Well, they didn't like it. Well, do you take the moment to go, okay, what could I have done better, or what were they looking for? I mean, you can tell I've been reading about some of you as an ad agency. Can you tell?
Yeah.
But that was one of the things you said initially. They listened to the customer. What do they want? And then tried to come up with creative ideas so it wasn't always the same old,
Mm-hmm.
As far as on that.
A friend of mine said to me, we talk about, audiences, and he'd spent a lot of time working out in the Las Vegas area. And if you think of, the 6 o'clock audience, the 9 o'clock audience, and then the 11 o'clock audience, they're all vastly different. Right.
Wow.
And being able to understand that room or how to work that room with where you're getting the most out of them. So when they leave, you were able to give them with what they wanted.
Who do you see that is getting ready to go to the next level or everybody?
Yeah.
They listen to me.
Yeah. Everybody. All of them in their own unique way are finding their way to turn that page. Some different than others. Some are having quicker growing opportunities than others, but each one of their individual journeys is unique in their own. So it's kind of hard for me to say, and they're all the same to me. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate their interest and their willingness to put up with a guy like me that sometimes can be gruff, and and be a pain in the neck. But I think um, I think all of them are are doing well.
Out of the WFA, then. I know. Maybe I should have said it that way. Well, I was hesitating, going, I want to get the question right. I know what I mean.
Again, I can think of I think of Mosh Pit. Look at with how far he's come. He's done tremendously well. I'm happy for him. He's great to work with. A wonderful guy. Great to have in the locker room. I get to spend a lot of time with him before shows, just talking and so forth, and kind of understanding with where he's at, and so forth and so on. I've spent a lot of time with Spencer Slade and Anthony Katina and others, and all of those guys have been great. And getting them to know them as individuals, but also as talent to challenge them in a way, but so they're progressing. So that the roster itself, has a lot of good talent that has a lot of good opportunity ahead of all of them if they continue to keep after it. And so the ball's really in their court. We'll continue to give them and support them as much as we can, and hopefully opportunities, in some way, shape, or form are presented, in a larger scale, going forward.
As you were saying that, I'm thinking, when we taught martial arts, you always had different belt ranks.
Yeah.
So, they were somebody may have been really, really good at the green belt level, and somebody may be ready at the brown belt.
Yeah.
But if you weren't really good at the green belt, you're not going to get the brown belt. No. so I mean, I might want to edit that question now.
No worries.
It was supposed to be to give out shout outs or.
Yeah, and maybe that's the Belichick with me. We're all, it's
That's all right. No, you actually have a person. I'm from Texas, but got to remember that.
Yeah.
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best instruments, music instructors, and compositions. But what about overcoming the challenges that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next. When you did for WFA, obviously we've talked a lot about the in-ring the wrestlers, male and female, blah blah blah. What about the refs and other players? Does the school have stuff for them too? Absolutely. As well?
Absolutely. Refs, managers, production.
Production too.
Yeah, production. Working with Caleb behind the scenes, camera guys, ring announcers, and again, as I was saying earlier, there's opportunities that are vast. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do in our business. Social media, marketing, ring announcing, ring crew, right? I mean, we've all done all of that stuff. So I think that's what makes us with where, hey, if you're willing to try this, we'll give you an opportunity to try it. That's what makes us different.
Wow. That's kind of cool. And I'm sure you give feedback too.
Yeah. I sit, I try to, obviously I'm better at some things than others, but again, for me, it's being able to, look at little different things and point different things out, whether it's how you're standing in the ring, your delivery, if you're a ring announcer, if you're doing interviews, if you're a referee, you're out of the way, you're not in the way, you're an authority figure opposed to being that non-authority figure. So all of that stuff comes into play because it plays a part of the presentation of the entire show, and what are people are seeing and with what are they feeling and saying, geez, that group from top to bottom, dots their I's and crosses their T's.
Which again is kind of the Your mantra there pretty much about is do all the little things right.
Yeah, it's with what drives the machine, right? It's
Hmm.
not the big stuff. It's the little things that keep the wheels turning. With where those type of things resonate with people, um, with where which garners interest, with where they want to come back for more. Right? It's the nuances. It's the little pieces. It's why it allows us to connect with audiences because it's we do those things exceptionally well.
The so for the upcoming year, and this question I actually don't have, I don't know ahead of time. Some of them I kind of do, but for 20, I guess I should say the year 2024 for the upcoming year. We'll say it that way.
Yeah.
What's the plans as far as school wise, and then also for WFA?
I'm really excited about 2024. I think it was good with what we were able to do in 2023. I thought there was a lot of learning opportunities for us as a business on both sides. Did a lot of things well, did some things wrong. A lot of takeaways, which is I think is healthy for any business, both the school and the promotion. It kind of gives us some real clarity with where we want to go in 2024, aspiration wise, with the school and with the promotion. Um, I'm excited for both with where things are go. I think independent wrestling and with the merger of Endeavor and WWE, I think that's going to change the climate of independent wrestling throughout the country, which I'm excited about. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be great.
So now you're going to be doing. Looks like you got some shows. I know you started to do some in Mass. Is
Yeah.
that going to be Massachusetts?
Yep. We'll
So is that going to continue?
we'll continue down that road. It's I think the Brewery Avenue has created some opportunity for us and some interest that's really perked up, on the South Shore area with where those businesses are looking for some different sorts of types of entertainment, and with where we've been able to connect well with the two shows that we've done down there. Um, I'm still excited about Concord. I think Concord could be a great home base. I think there's some things that maybe we should look at maybe doing a little bit differently, but I think it's very doable there. And so, like I said, I'm excited about 2024 because of the takeaways that we've been able to learn and really kind of keep us going in the right direction. So 2023 was good for us in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. It was good. The Concord facility is incredible too.
Yeah, it's I've had different people come in from different organizations, and it's awesome. It's a wonderful place. It's a great place to train. The gym there, um, and I think with what we do from a teaching standpoint or show wise, if I was an independent guy, it's a girl. It's with where I'd want to be, and I don't say that with just because I'm there. It's just that I think that there's something about us that's different from everybody else in a healthy way.
The way it's set up too. I mean, you got obviously the whole thing. And plus you have where you do the shows there. You have, and I'm telling you what you already know, but you have the ramp. You have the whole thing there set up, and it's sometimes like when I was visiting you and watching. I'm thinking it reminded me of a time of when Triple H was talking about, like, he had some people from NXT. They came to one of the big shows and they were real nervous. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, wait a minute. It's just like what we do. It's just bigger.
Larger version.
And they relax and realize that thing. And I remember him saying that's exactly what I wanted, so that they'd get the idea. Now we just kind of go on. So, and that's what it seems like, especially at the school where you're practicing in a place where they have shows too. So,
It works. Yep, it's good.
yeah, it's like practicing on a stage versus in a loft. If you're a musician,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
as far as on that. Cool. What's the best thing about what you do?
What's the
for
best?
you personally?
I get to impact people in a way with where, and I've said this over the years, and I say it to students, and I'm very honest and candid when I say it, and I don't mean to say it in a way with where it comes across in a negative way. Not everybody's going to go on to be WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor superstar. But with what we're able to create or help influence in a manner or in a way with where students are able to find their way, self-confidence, belief, ending up in a better place than with where before they came to see us. You can't put a price tag on that from a monetary standpoint to create with where they end up becoming completely, different over a period of time. So that's probably the most rewarding thing for me is being able to see them just to flourish in a way that's they're in so much of a better place, personally and professionally.
That's so cool. You can be a little gruff when you got that attitude too, right? Because you're like, well, he's being gruff because he's not because he's gruff, but because he cares.
Yeah, it's
that was
evident. It's someone's entrusting they're entrusting me. So I have to have those traits because if not, I'm doing a disservice and I'm not being honest. And let's face it, there's a lot of dishonesty throughout our country, throughout the world. If I could be one piece of it with where it was someone's shooting straight with me and telling me the truth and doing it in a manner with where it's constructive and healthy and not abusive, I think that's the part that separates. I want to be a professional, or am a professional.
Yeah, well, and that's a good, actually, that's a real good lesson now that you can say, listen, you can get corrected, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be an attack.
Yeah, it's never personal, right? It
seems to be a little bit of loss right now.
Yeah, if I'm not saying anything, that's when I would be really concerned. But
what I do,
you'd rather have me chirping at you and saying, "Geez, he's after me," and it's because it's what's best for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure you see the potential.
Yeah,
you're saying, nope, fix your stance.
Yeah,
I remember you talked a lot about footwork when I was watching. I'm like,
well, clumsy feet equal ugly feet, and if you can be as fluid and eloquent on your movements and your steps and your movements, and it's just you watch a quarterback and he doesn't have happy feet back out when he's coming out of the pocket. I mean, he's pretty confident with where he's going and with what he's doing and where that ball's going. Same thing for us, right? Are you confident on your feet? Where your feet go, your body go.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true. You're trying to work a Tom Brady thing in here, aren't you?
I am.
I can tell.
because he'll tell you it's mechanics. And if your mechanics so well, I had a friend of mine a long time ago said to me, I can tell if a guy or girl can work by just watching their feet. And that's probably one thing that just stuck with me forever. And I said,
that's powerful.
Well, what do you mean by that? He says, look, we don't need, clumsy people in the ring. It's there needs to be a sense of gracefulness. So that's
powerful.
Yeah. So that's one thing that always kind of stuck with me that I thought was important. And considering with where it came from, I really hung my hat on that.
Well, it's a foundation too.
Yeah. Yep. He was a pretty smart guy.
I think trying to catch people jumping off the top ropes tough enough without having your feet in the wrong position.
Yeah. Or not knowing how to get there.
Yeah. So as far as on that end of it. All right. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time. For your contact information for the Elite Pro Wrestling School.
Yeah, it's Elite Pro Wrestling Academy.com and hollowstables.net. You can find Scott and I at Scott at Elite, me at hollowstables.net. We're all in it together, and so it's one big happy family and trying to make a difference and getting the best out of everybody.
Okay, and then also WFA. People want to know about that.
WFA, I think at .com. I don't know that off the top of my head. Shame on me, but I believe
we'll put it on the screen.
Yeah. But I just want to say thank you for reaching out and that for me to do this. I always enjoy these. it's great to be able to have back and forth conversation and talk about different things that are important to me, and maybe can enlighten you a little bit about the things that make me tick and how I look at things. So it's create some clarity across the board. So I always think that's always fun and entertaining.
That's great. Well, absolutely an honor. We got to do dinner again sometime.
Fair enough. Excellent. Very good. I appreciate it.